Hello and welcome to the 22nd part of Project Dracunalysис. It's chapter 22. Let's dive in and we'll see where we are. So we know Mina is in great danger. She's being vampirized, if that is a real word. And we have more religious lexis here. And also it reflects Victorian society, so it's a bit of context and cultural reference there, but the idea of Jonathan Harker is distressed and he's drawing on his faith because it challenges everything that is held dear. And the exclamatory sentences here, exclamatory minor sentences, indicate his distress. So that's good for that one. It's a relatively short chapter actually, this one. Then again Stoker keeps the stakes high with Mina's life is under threat, but not only that, because if I find in myself, and I shall watch keenly for it, a sign of harm to any that I love, I shall die. You would not kill yourself, he asked hoarsely. I would, if there were no friend who loved me who would save me such a pain and so desperate an effort. She's prepared to kill herself to stop herself from harming anybody. However, there's a little bit of a problem with that, because it's like I'm on the Demeter there, the Greek, it's just my chair. The problem with that is, of course, if she takes her own life while being infected by vampirism, she will become a vampire, you see. You must not die by any hand, but least of all your own. Until the other who has found your sweet life is true dead, you must not die. For if he is still with the quick undead, your death would make you even as he is. No, you must live. That's Van Helsing, even though I forgot to do the voice. Then we have you must fight death himself. So again, the stakes incredibly high, the drama, the tension very high. We've got Dracula as the embodiment of death, the bringer of death, who is the ultimate evil, is the ultimate enemy of life. And that's how Stoker presents him. Then this is another convenient moment where they realise that when they visited Carfax Abbey and didn't do anything with the boxes full of earth, then that actually turns out to be good, because the Count would have worked out what they were up to and would have come up with plans to counteract their plan, but they didn't, and he hasn't. Then here's a little bit of vampire lore which gets overlooked, and it could be just because Dracula is a particularly powerful vampire that the sun doesn't hurt him. So in films and TV depictions of Dracula, he would turn to stone and crumble into dust in sunlight, but that's not actually in this novel at all. But the sun that rose on our sorrow this morning guards us in its course. Until it sets tonight, that monster must retain whatever form he now has. He is confined within the limitations of his earthly envelope. He cannot melt into thin air, nor disappear through cracks or chinks or crannies. So presumably if he was in his bat form, he'd have to stay as a bat all day. It would drive him batty. If he go through a doorway, he must open a door like a mortal. I don't suppose he'd be able to do it as a bat though, would he? Because his little wings would have to grab the handle. But it's just one of those things where it subverts your expectations, not so much because of how it's written, but it's more how we think we know vampires and we know Dracula as a story, but we don't necessarily, because a lot of it is just the myth has been built up over time by countless media depictions of him. They have a plan. They said before about trying to break into one of Dracula's houses in Piccadilly, but they've got a really good idea here. I should get a respectable locksmith and send him to work to pick the lock for me. This is their idea, basically, where it won't draw any attention because people will just assume it's legitimate. So there's probably a special name for this. I can't think what it is. Not necessarily, I don't mean a term, but something in life where it's it just seems logical, so no one questions it. So no suspicion is aroused when you have these men organising a locksmith. It looks like they've just locked themselves out or something, or they're trying to get into a tenant's house or something like that, you know. Anyway, this carries on all of this about there's a story from Van Helsing about an occasion where someone broke into a house using this technique and then took it over, and it's probably based on a real life thing, I'm sure. And we have reference here to Mina's transformation. As yet there was no sign of the teeth growing sharper, but the time as yet was short, and there was time for fear. So again, Stoker keeps the tension because time is of the essence, and it won't be long before she starts displaying these vampiric qualities. She already has demonstrated some of them already. So breakfast time. I almost put a picture of breakfast on the title. I was so desperate to put something from this chapter on the title screen, but I just picked for my bizarre spinning idea. Then there's more on this page. So we have reference again, religious references, the sacred wafer, and liturgical language here. Liturgical lexis is used by Van Helsing. More religious language of unclean, unclean. Even the Almighty shuns my polluted flesh. So I must bear this mark of shame upon my forehead until the judgment day. So this a sacred wafer burns her because of the her vampiric nature now. So it affects her. And again, religious lexis and the idea of being tainted by sin as well. And there's a whole avenue you can go down here of the potential sexual analogy that the novel and vampirism has. And we know a lot of this because we've talked about blood symbolism in the novel as well, haven't we? For so surely as we live, that scar shall pass away when God sees right to lift the burden that is hard upon us. So again, more liturgical language from the character of Van Helsing. So Stoker clearly sets it up, and he's clearly, obviously as well, he helps to emphasize the differences between Dracula and Van Helsing. They've got some similarities as well, both in terms of they're foreigners as well. So they're foreigners in this kind of sense of it, but you've got one who is obviously heroic, one who is villainous. You've got one who is effectively demonic or devilish, and you've got one who is effectively like a de facto priest, effectively, Van Helsing, but he's also a scholar and a scientist, but he's also like a priest as well. So the language reflects this as well. If you see all this here, and references to Jesus here as well. And we have more references to Dracula and why he uses the earth in the way he does. He has chosen this earth because it has been holy, thus we defeat him with his own weapon, for we make it more holy still. So that's what they're going to do. Taking from his box a piece of the sacred wafer, he laid it reverently on the earth, and then shutting down the lid began to screw it home. We aided him as he worked. So they sabotage Dracula's boxes of holy earth that he uses to recharge himself in, and when he tries to do it, it's going to mess him up because they're too holy, they're sanctified, so he can't go near them. And we have the other house being investigated is the Piccadilly one. We have the account here of that. So we also have my heart beat as I saw the house in which so much of our hope was centred, looming up grim and silent in its deserted condition amongst its more lively and spruce-looking neighbours. So you could count that as personification, grim and silent. I suppose it would also work almost like a person, wouldn't it, really, in some ways? And the spruce-looking neighbours, it does work kind of metaphorically, actually. It's figurative, definitely. Then we have, not a soul took the slightest notice of this whole transaction. That's when they're using a legitimate locksmith to break in, but the locksmith doesn't realise what's going on. I'll just put that in as a little reference to that there. And then they look at the chests. With the tools we had brought with us, we opened them one by one and treated them as we treated those in the old chapel. So they also look at notes and letters Dracula has on the table as well. And there's also a really disgusting brush and comb, jug and basin. It's got dirty water which was reddened as if with blood. So it's more kind of gruesome stuff, the idea of what Dracula's been up to there. But there's more houses there as well. Took with them the keys in a great bunch and set out to destroy the boxes in those places. So they are very much narrowing down his places of refuge where he can recharge himself. Talking of recharge, I think I need to recharge my voice. Which is lucky because that is the end of this admittedly very short chapter. So thank you for listening. Like, subscribe, comment, notification bell. Please listen to the other videos, use the other videos. Hope it all helps you. Have a great day or night. Enjoy whatever you're doing. Thank you and goodbye.